All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So before we begin, I would like to just take a moment and say hello to everyone who's here live, everyone who is watching on the replay, and just give you a little introduction about who we're going to hear tonight, because I'm really excited for tonight's guest. I'm speaking to you, but honestly, I'm really speaking to me. So if you've ever felt like you're the bottleneck in your own practice, like I am in my own business, I mean, like everything runs through you. And if you stepped away for even just a week, the whole thing would wobble. Tonight's conversation's for you. So I hope that you pay close attention. Don't be looking on your screen over here and looking on your phone. Let's pay attention because I've got for you Meryl Simmons. She is a professional EOS implementer and business coach. But honestly, what makes her so good at this isn't just a certification, it's the fact that she has lived it all. She was a clinical training director leading a team of 14 national reps when her company's headcount doubled in under a year and revenue went from 70 million to 200 million in 3 years. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, wow, that sounds so great. And I'm sure it was in the bank account, but it was a little bit of chaos. They had no role clarity, they had no systems, her best people burning out and second guessing themselves because nobody knew what they actually owned. Then she's taken everything she learned, climbing out of that and turning it into a way of helping business owners build something that doesn't depend on them holding it together by sheer will. She's helped everyone from law firms to dental practices to the music industry companies that get stuck. And one client, she saw a 33% revenue lift in 12 months. So tonight, Meryl's going to help us, you and me, because I'm going to be listening very carefully, how to dig into what is actually looks like to work on your practice instead of just living in it day to day. Meryl, thank you so much for being here tonight, for giving us all your wisdom. I'm going to shut up now and let you take it.
Yeah, thank you, Jody. It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me. And gosh, you've just summed that up so amazingly. So thank you for that amazing introduction. So I'm really excited to be with you here all today because, you became a clinician to change lives, or you started your business in wellness so that you can change lives, not to run a business that runs you, or as I like to say, basically creating a job for yourself with payroll, right? That's the worst, right? So we're gonna spend the next, hour or so, give or take, um, getting it back. I really want you to treat this session like a live coaching session. So get your pen and paper, get your tablet, whatever it is that you use, and I really want you to be intentional as you're learning. As we go through this content, I want you to write things down as it pertains to your business. So really think about your business. And I want you to be able to take action. I know that we've taken this time to learn, and we participate in various webinars or conferences or whatever it is, but then we learn and we don't apply it. And our time is way too valuable to be able to not take steps, or not to be able to take steps to make a change. So I'm really excited to be here with you. And I love that you took the time to learn with me today and invest in your business. So let's make that count. So before we dive in today, I would just like you to either drop it in the chat, raise a hand. Which of these is you? Are you the solo practitioner running an independent practice? Maybe you have a small team and a handful of providers and a few support staff, sort of that less than 10 people number. Or maybe you're managing multiple providers across more than one location. So just drop it in the chat who you are. And honestly, because the pain points might look a little bit different depending on where you are in your stage of growth. But I can say that often the root cause of the issues are the same, typically, no matter what stage you're in your business. Jody, introduced me and shared a little bit about some of my experiences working for and with a scale-up company. And regardless of the fact that this was their size and their revenue size may look totally different than your revenue size, but the root problems that I experienced as a leader and as an operator in that business were the same as what might apply to you even as a single practitioner or, a practitioner with a handful of providers. So we're going to get into all of that. And I want to start by asking you a question. As you think about your business, think about what's not working today. What is one thing that you want to change? I want you to write it down. What is creating friction in your business? Because what I want you to think about is that if you were to go on a 2-week vacation, it's kind of like Jody set me up for this. It's almost like she knew what I was going to say. But if you were to go on a 2-week vacation, you were to win a trip to Italy, and you'd have to leave in like 3 days. What would be the first thing that would start to break or that would unravel? Would it be your schedule? Would it be, revenue collection? Would it be conflicts with staff? Things around patient follow-ups or just overall issues in the business? What would break? And it doesn't have to be like a fire. It could be like a slow, like a crack. What might start to quietly fall apart? Take a moment to reflect on that. So one of the things that I hear mostly with every business owner like you that I speak to is that the ultimate root issue of the problem is often rooted around you. You would be the thing that broke your business because the business runs entirely through you, not through a system. And that's the problem that I want to help you to solve and what we're going to talk about today. But before we jump into some practical tools that I'm excited to share with you, I want to just first kind of level set and get on the same page for what it actually means to work in your business versus working on your business. Because when structure exists, when simple structure exists, working on your business actually starts to happen more naturally. But when you don't have any kind of structures or frameworks in your business, it's really harder to achieve that. It feels like extra work, and it kind of feels like you don't know where to start. Some things are like you're just surviving, right? Or you're building your business on a to-do list. Honestly, the big trap that I find that practitioners fall into, especially if you're both practicing and leading the business, is that they try to use these like 20-minute gaps in between patients or in between sessions to work on the business. But the truth is that we know that doesn't work because you're answering emails, you're answering questions, you're working late at night on a Tuesday, right? Or Wednesday, whatever it is. And it doesn't work. And honestly, that's not a strategy, and it burns you out. It's the fastest way to burn out. And it is also limiting your ability to scale. So when you work on the business, you have things like a repeatable process. You have things like a repeatable rhythm, a weekly cadence where you're looking at some handful of numbers of how healthy your business is so that you can solve problems when things fall off track. You're looking at every 90 days, you're resetting new goals that help you to actually make an impact and scale your business. And honestly, this isn't a matter of not caring. It's really the question of, do you have the right engine in place in order to help you to get out of the weeds? And so think to yourself, what is the percentage of time you spend today working in the business versus on your business? So I want you to kind of give that some thought. And I just put a little bit of about me slide in here. I'll go through it briefly since Jody already did that. Here's me with my weighted vest walking, because that's one of the things I love to do. I know it also supports great hormone health and longevity and all those things. So I love to do that. But as Jody mentioned, I spent multiple decades starting my career out as a healthcare practitioner. I'm actually a trained provider. And then going into the medical device industry. So I spent over 20 years working alongside hundreds of practice owners, hundreds of clinicians and operators to really help them to scale their business, and also being a leader in a medical device company who saw rapid growth. And I, as a leader and manager in that business, struggled so much. I know what it felt like when things looked really awesome on the outside, but inside, oh my God, it was painful. And I'm so passionate about being able to help wellness professionals to really get everything they want from their business, to start working smarter so they can scale, because you went into your business to change lives. And I want you to build the best business possible that's the most valuable and the least dependent on you, meaning it runs well even without you in it. It doesn't mean that you're not important and a valuable asset to your business, but you shouldn't be what makes your business go. So I'm really excited to be able to have an opportunity to be with you all tonight. And I hope this isn't the last time we see each other. So again, without further ado, about the tools, I just want to kind of go through one more sort of casework, if you will, of symptoms, so that maybe this will help you to sort of get clear and help you to identify some points of friction or things that are not working in your business. And so I want to share with you 3 kind of client, profiles, if you will. And sometimes they're merged into one. So they're not always isolated, but maybe these are some things that you can identify with. The first one is that owner that can't leave their practice. The practice is completely owner dependent, successful on paper, but you're really on that verge of burnout. We talked about that already in the last few minutes. Every decision runs through you. You solve every problem. You're the one that brings it to everyone's attention when something's not working. The business is just on that verge of breaking if you have to be out of the office. And a vacation to Italy is great, but what if something else happens? You're actually creating a risk and a liability to your business. And it's less valuable because everything is reliant on you. And so I always encourage business owners, how do we build for the end goal? What is that end goal? Do you want to sell your practice eventually? Do you want to transition it to someone else in the business, either inside the business or outside of the business? Is it a family-run business? Every time you can scale your business, it becomes more valuable. But when you don't work on the business, it starts to diminish or loses that value. So are you that owner that on paper it looks great, but it's kind of 100% reliable on you? The second is the right people problem, or are your people preventing you from scaling? And I want to share a story about a few practices that almost every practice that when I meet them have this issue. And it's that loyalty trap. It's like you have people that have been with you from the start. They're super loyal, but they're actually creating a knowledge bottleneck. Nothing's documented. If they can't solve it, no one can, right? Like maybe it's your office manager that sort of, they know like everything, where everything is, how to do everything. For heaven's sake, they have all your passwords, right? And they're the only ones that have it. If they're not in, you're locked out, right? So maybe there's that kind of people problem of that loyal person who's actually creating a liability to your business because it's not scalable. They're sort of like they're like the hero, but it's actually not helping your business. The other symptom is when people have multiple seats in your business. So your office provider is your office manager is also your person who make sure that not only the schedule is optimized, but they also make sure that the provider has what they need. They also are doing billing things. So they're sort of like that, person who wears all the hats in your business, but maybe there's areas that they're not really sure of what they own. Like they own so much, but are they actually doing all those things well? And is it hurting your business or preventing it from scaling or growing to the next level because there's not 100% time being spent on a function that requires 100% of the time, right? So there's a lack of role clarity or capacity, and they can't fully own their role. Or maybe you've got the wrong person. You've got some people that are creating gossip in the offices. I work with a bunch of practices. They have several locations, and sometimes people float around to the different locations, and they're like that pot stirrer that kind of goes to the multiple locations, and you've got gossip happening or some friction around personalities, and that person really doesn't align with culture. They're not the right person because they don't exemplify your values, and you haven't made changes. You know you need to, but you haven't, because that feels harder to make a change than not to. But the truth is the best way of alienating your top performers is by putting them with someone who's not a top performer or doesn't align with your culture. And then the third kind of scenario is that solo provider. You provide excellent care, but there's like zero operational leverage. And you have no time, or what feels like no time, to train or onboard new staff. And there's no system in place to actually think about transitioning your patients to new providers, right? So you sort of like have this, like you're just stuck as the chief everything officer, and there's not a system set up that that will allow you to build that infrastructure to scale. So kind of think about this as I shared, like which one are you? Do you have shades of some of these? And write it down for your business. Who's the person that you see that I just described? Who just popped into your head as I described those people issues? Do you have them in your business? And so it's these problems are not a motivation problem, but they are simply a structure problem. You know, and as a result, when you don't have structure, your business starts to hit a ceiling. It hits a ceiling on revenue. You just can't grow more if you don't have providers, or you can't increase your, your revenue or hit your revenue goals if you don't have the right people in the right seats and they're not owning that accountability around performance. You will burn out, right? You'll start to churn people. And again, you start to have that job with payroll. So it's that lack of clarity and lack of control, that working harder is not going to help you to break through those systems. But what it is it's a structure issue. So you want to work smarter. That's the cure, right? When we prescribe solutions for our patients, it's what needs to change, how their behaviors need to change maybe, right? And we need some ingredients and some tools to be able to help them on their way. And your business is no different. So it's not a matter of being lazy, but in order to get to the next level, right? New levels, new devils, you need structure to be able to do that. You need an operating rhythm and an operating system and simple disciplines to be able to do that. So you're really smart. You've built a business that has legs, right? So many businesses can't say that. But in order to move from that left column to the right column, you need a system, and it's not effort. So that's why I want you to think about your business, and the system that I use helps you to think about your business and strengthening 6 key areas. That first area that I want you to think about and that I help teams to get clear on and get stronger in is their vision. Where are they going and how are they going to get there? Everyone needs to be aligned. The second thing that I help teams to strengthen is their people component. All great businesses are run by great people. But in order to determine if you have the right people in the right seats, you've got to do some work, some structure to set it up around what is their seat own? What are they supposed to drive fully so that everything doesn't keep bottlenecking to you? When someone owns a core function of their business, it means they know what outcome they're supposed to be driving. And they own it from solving the problems when problems come up to making sure that performance stays on track. Also, culture. Are you attracting and hiring or firing people that don't align with your culture, your core values? So we want to make sure we've got the right people and the right seats. And we cannot grow and scale if we don't have those things. The third thing is data, making sure that we've got a handful of metrics. These are activity-based predictors that help us to determine, if we look at them and track them week over week and master this, we're going to get the results and our business will become more predictable and more scalable. The fourth thing is issues, making sure that not only do we have a place in our business to solve them, so we're not running a to-do list, right? Running our business on a weekly to-do list, but we actually know the issues that are priorities, and we can start to actually get to the root cause of those issues and have a space to do it. A lot of companies or businesses or entrepreneurs will talk about the issue and they feel like just because they talked about it, that's great, but that's not solving the issue. That's just talking about it. So we need to make sure that we have a system and a framework and disciplines that help us to solve issues once and for all so that we can get to the next one. Because guess what? Running a business means you're solving issues. That's what it is. And sometimes there are opportunities. Issues don't always have to be negative, but really as a leader and a manager, your job is to problem solve, right? The next thing is process. Do you have a handful of processes that are documented, easy to use and train and followed by all? And then lastly, making sure that you are spending time working on your business, prioritizing the most important things, staying focused so that you can drive traction in your business. And this is what we call the 6 key components of the entrepreneurial operating system. And this is what I help my clients to actually install, implement, and master in their business to get strong in 3 areas of these 6 key components. But everyone's rowing the boat in the same direction. Everyone is executing on that plan together with accountability. And it's healthy. You have fun working with people that you're working with, and you're all in a healthy, open and honest environment and culture that you're developing. Now, we're not going to have time to go through the tools for all of these 6 key components today, but I do want to show you 3 of them and focus on 3 specific foundational tools that will help you to move the needle in your business, regardless of what size your business is in. So I want you to pay close attention. So the 3 game-changing foundations, and EOS is a toolbox, right? There's over 20 tools, but I'm going to teach you 3 of those tools today. And every practice needs all of them. The other thing too about EOS is that it's a comprehensive operating system. So you're not just, taking little bits and pieces. You really need all the ingredients. You've got to be strong in all 6 key components, because when you're not, wonky things start to happen in the business. You hit a ceiling. And so the first one is simple numbers. It's a small set of weekly metrics. It's not your P&L. It's not your final revenue number. It's simple metrics that actually tell you where things might be off track in the business so that at the end of the month, you achieve your targets. You want to make sure that you have eyeballs on the most important things, maybe 5 to 10 things, that if you're looking at them weekly, it's not too late to course correct. We don't want to look at a P&L only because it's like driving in a rear view mirror, right? Most things that are going to happen in front of us. So we've got to keep our eyes moving forward. So what are those leading indicators, not lagging indicators? Those are outcomes like revenue. But what are some leading indicators that would tell you that your practice is on track every week? I want you to think about that. So write some things down, maybe 3 things down about your practice that if you looked at it every week, it would help you to make sure that you could course correct before it's too late. And feel free to write it in the chat. Yeah, some good examples that are coming in are things like new patient inquiries, right? Are there, new patients coming in the door? What about things like your no-show rate? That's something else as well, a nice example. Um, yeah, I see some things around scheduling utilization, right? How many consults are maybe booked for the week, or how much, on the flip side of that, how much room is there in the schedule, right? To make sure that you can actually see those patients. I actually just called an eye doctor today, and they told me as a new patient I couldn't see anyone until January. Holy cow! What a way to, you know, what a way to stall your business, right? But if you were tracking something on a weekly basis, you'd make sure that you had enough time for new patients versus repeat patients. Things like referrals, yep, that's a great one as well. And even things like revenue collected. If you run any memberships in your practice, that's also a good one too. Did anyone sign up for a new membership versus a single consultation, right? Number of new memberships sold, right? All of those things will help you to track that end result that you want to see. So those are your scorecard metrics, not 40 numbers, but 5 to 10. And I want to challenge you to start with 3. Start with 3. And every week, I want you to look at those metrics. And if you hit the goal, and so you set a goal, and if you hit the goal, it's green. If you don't hit the goal, it's red. And you need to not get used to red, right? If it's red, you need to be able to be like, what's the problem? How can I get it back on track? What's the behavior that I need to change to be able to get it on track by the end of the week? So maybe it's things around getting your front office staff or your marketing, person in place, or something that you might change in marketing that will help you to make sure that you can flip the switch and get that red to turn green. The second foundational tool that I want you to think about is around priorities. How many of you run your business on a to-do list? It's just like this ongoing notebook of a to-do list. I know you do. I've seen it. I know who you are, right? But when we run on a to-do list, we can't prioritize. And actually, we are often reacting to something that has happened. We are often reacting to a problem. But when you're working on your business with intention, when you're setting priorities with intention, and that only happens when you work on your business consistently, you come up with what we call 90-day goals, or rocks, as we call them in the EOS system. And these are 2 to 3 essentially outcomes that we're trying to drive. I always say, what does done look like at the end of the 90 days if you've accomplished this priority, this thing? And they should really be around things like impacting revenue, impacting profitability, impacting your customers, and or impacting your employees. If they don't touch any of those 4 areas, it's probably noise. If it's not driving revenue, if it's not improving profitability, if it's not improving your client experience, or training or optimizing things for your team around systems to make them better, or whatever it is probably not important. So you need to make sure that what you want to, your 17 item to-do list can have incredible focus, radical focus on the most important things to move your business forward. Everything else is just noise. So what's one thing that if you focused on it and prioritized it over the next 90 days, it would genuinely change how your practice operates by impacting any 4 of those things: revenue, profit, your team, and your clients? What is one thing? Write that thing down. That is a rock. That is not a to-do. Actually, in EOS, we have tools that help us compartmentalize, and a to-do is really a task that, it should take us a week to do it, and it's a commitment. We can get it done in a week. But a rock, for example, is like the new patient intake process is fully documented. Staff is trained by September 4th. And you're going to track some metrics that show you progress so that you can see a certain percentage of completion or impact to that change, right? Like that is a raw. That is a big item that with the right focus and intention will actually make an impact on your business. And ultimately, it should be relevant to your 1-year plan. But if you haven't documented your 1-year plan, it's kind of hard to work backwards. So this is sort of like the how to eat an elephant, breaking them down into small bites so that you can focus on the same things. Because you and I both know it's really easy to get distracted. It's really easy to run on firefighting mode. So this is why that intention is so critical. And this tool, this discipline, working on your business helps us to get out of that firefighting chaos mode. And then the third thing is the best meeting structure and cadence you'll ever learn about. So pay attention. It's your weekly meeting structure called the L10 meeting structure, the level 10 meeting structure from the EOS toolbox. And it holds numbers, priorities, and issue solving all in one place. Finally, all the things that come up as issues that you're sort of reacting to all week, you now have one place, one meeting, one space to be able to solve those problems. So I want to walk you through the agenda of the level 10 meeting, and I hope that you write it down or take a screenshot, because if you don't take away anything from this, take away the level 10 meeting structure, it will change your business. It's just one small thing, but it's awesome. So it's the same agenda every week. No skipping, same time, same day, same people. So if you have a manager or leadership team in place in your practice, if you've got more than 10 people, you probably have some core team leads around marketing or sales and operations. So those are the people that should come to that meeting. But if you're a smaller practice with less than 10 people, invite your team. Use your judgment. And when I help some clients who have less than 10 people, we actually run a level 10 meeting together. So the L10 meeting starts like this. It's 90 minutes. It's every week. And it's the most valuable 90 minutes that you'll spend. You spend 5 minutes checking in, giving a business best and a personal best. That's your 5-minute check-in. You spend 5 minutes with a scorecard update, not a story time, but a simple review of your scorecard, those weekly numbers. They're either on track or off track. No discussion, just see where you are. Make sure that you're managing them. What gets measured gets managed, right? Like steps and macros, same thing. 5 minutes reviewing the 90-day raw priorities that you and your team have committed to. Again, is it on track or off track? So you need to make sure that you've put in some good milestones in place so that you can see your progress and stay on track with those goals. Nothing's worse than setting a 90-day goal and then you revisit it at the end of the 90-day and you say, I don't even know what this was. I don't remember, right? But this discipline and getting clear around what it is helps you to make sure that you are actually making progress and traction on executing that thing. And then 5 minutes sharing what we call a headline. This is either something about something that you need to update your team with, like an announcement, Mary's going on maternity leave, or we just closed on the whatever location, or whatever it is that you need to update that's about something internal. But you're not going to talk about it. You're just going to take 5 minutes to share a headline. If someone needs to talk about it, you're going to drop it down to what we call an issues list. And then you have a 5 minutes of a to-do review, which holds everyone accountable from the last week's meeting, which says, did everyone commit or did everyone complete what they committed to doing last week when they took action on something? So it's that accountability. It also is the transparency so that you don't have multiple tabs open in your brain of who did that, what happened with it, right? So everyone has visibility to this and accountability of this to do is to done. And then you have 60 minutes to solve issues. We call it an issues list where you put the issues. Now, this is the best thing you'll ever learn because it's a place to get it out of your head. The meetings, after the meetings, next to the meetings that happen, something that comes up, put it on the issues list. It then lives there. And this is the heart of the meeting. So the problems that keep showing up, put them on this issues list, and you're going to do what we call IDS. So this is how you look at your issues list. So IDS is a discipline that stands for identify. So what is the root cause? Like, what is the issue that you're trying to really solve, right? And so maybe it's that your no-show rate on your scorecard is high. So maybe that's the issue. It's red rather on your scorecard. So, and this is a continuous problem that keeps happening, and you start to do all these different things. But what really is the root cause? Is it a structure problem, right? Do we not have the right or process problem, right? Do we not have the right process? Is it a structure or people problem? Is it actually being handled by one person who knows that they own that thing? And are they actually executing on that thing well? Is there clear ownership? And if not, is it a people problem? Do they not get it, want it, and have the capacity to do their job well? Do you need to be able to coach and mentor and try to repair? Or are they maybe not the right fit because they're not executing on that? So you've got to get to the root of the problem. So dig past the surface. Right? The second thing is to discuss, but not just to talk about it, but to actually take action. And this is the really important part, right? So what I just mentioned before, figure out what the root of the problem is and then take action. What are you going to change? What needs to happen in order to start actually moving the needle? And direct towards the solution. And then the S stands for solve, right? That's that clear action. And then not just what we're going to do about it, but who's going to own it? Who owns that action item, right? So that's how we start to knock issues down in the business so that they don't keep coming up. And we call that IDS. So the L10 meeting and IDS. And the truth is again, the same meeting every week. And but I will say that while the agenda is, dare I say, freaking awesome, because it really does help you to work on your business, it forces you to look at these frameworks and disciplines that help you really scale. But it really is the consistency that matters. So, if you're not going, every week to look at your numbers and you're kind of slacking on, those priorities or not solving the issues, things are still hiding underneath, right? But when you do this consistently, nothing can really hide, right? Things start to show up of what the issues are or where the business is maybe weak or where there might be some people clarity issues. So we need to make sure that we can actually create this structure in the business so that we can have that good accountability and we can have that repeatability and consistency. So it's really, really important that that we maintain that consistency. And maintaining it alone is really challenging. I mean, as Jody said, like, I'm a solopreneur myself. I know Jody has a small team, but like, if we're not being held accountable and we don't have, a voice of reason to maybe help us and to partner with us and help us to really build these muscles, these disciplines, we drift. We just do. I mean, you probably see that with your patients, right? That you care for and that you set up treatment plans with. So that ongoing care, I want to share with you about the Get Focused program that I run. And it's just this. It's just the things that I kind of helped you to think about, those foundational tools. It's a virtually structured program. We meet every 2 weeks with a small group of business owners just like you. We have that real application. You come with your numbers. I help you to build them. You come with your priorities. I help you to build them and get strong in that area. And we run that meeting together. You've got that third party person kind of facilitating and asking you the questions, that coaching that's happening. And it really does help so many, small business owners with 10 people or less who don't yet have that team in place. I cannot tell you what a game changer this is for them. And they say to me, Meryl, like, if I don't have you to work on the business with me, I don't do it. And it really is, it's that accountability. And so the Focused program, if you are a business owner with 10 people or less, you don't really have that complete team in place yet, this program is for you. This is going to be a game changer. 82% of my clients have had their best year ever for my Get Focused clients, as well as my full implementation clients who implement the operating system fully with their leadership team. So I want that to be you as well, to build the best business for you. And the best business that you can build, right, while making an impact. So I want to share with you a real life story about one of my Get Focused program participant. She actually runs a longevity practice in California, and she is a solo provider currently. And she currently has one location and 3 staff members. And her goals is that she wants to scale. She's about 1.5 million in revenue, which is kind of like where her business just hit. So her business is doing great. She's got a wait list of patients, and she's trying to scale and hire another PA or another provider, and even offer additional services so that, again, she's not doing that right now. So she's almost kind of leaving a little money on the table, if you will, because she's the only provider currently. Because her schedule is completely full. She hasn't really been able to get to her priorities. They kind of stay on that list. She makes a little headway, but then she gets overwhelmed. She also has 3 kids at home, right? Her partner also works full time. So she's got a lot happening in her life, but she really wants to build a better business. And, when we met, this was kind of where she was at. And then also, she was seeing some challenges in her business that she couldn't quite solve around billing. Like things were just like not adding up, and they were just sort of issues that she wasn't getting to. And so what we did was we actually right away, we put together the scorecard. So that's the first thing that we did together. And one of them was patient inquiries, the number of new patients turned away or waitlisted per week. That was actually rising. Consults booked, consults booked per week were falling below the baseline. That was something that we were able to track. And I mean, right away we saw it. Like the moment we decided and she said, these are the metrics, she was able to like put eyes on it and see through the data that this was actually off track rather. And then the third one was acceptance rate. And this was essentially just like the percentage of patients who had were declining significantly rather, around like patients who wanted to sort of upsell their package. That was sort of going down, that upsell rate. And so right away, just by looking at these 3 things, we were able to put it right on the issues list. They were off track. Why are they waitlisting instead of booking, right? And we were able to, solve these problems and get some traction on taking initiative to solve these problems. So we did this in our weekly meetings together, our bi-monthly meetings together of IDS. So you can see that it really gave her good visibility and transparency and clarity on what needed to be fixed. Today, Sarah has 2 PAs. She's completely changed. She's actually spending, probably her time is about I don't know, 60% still with patient care and 40% now actually working on the business. And our goal is to get it to an 80-20. She's been able to increase her revenue numbers significantly. She's made some big people decisions. She had an office manager when we started that was just like not the right person. And she made that people change probably about 1 month in. She was sort of just avoiding doing that work. And all of these things happened because she took the time to be able to put these frameworks into place, practice these disciplines on a regular basis, and really get clear on her business. And so that's just one example of so many of what it means to really work on your business with intention, and really build a practice that is, valuable, and a business that you love and is that you are in control of, and that's not in control of you. Um, you came here today because maybe you just wanted to learn something new. Maybe you were curious. Maybe there really is something that isn't working the way you want it to. And I hope that you got some clarity around that during this time together. Whether it be that the schedule is full, but goals aren't moving because it's so full, and, whatever it is, right? Sort of that like cascading thing that happens, or maybe you don't have the right people, or that accountability is sticking and every problem still goes through you. And the truth is that there are cures. It doesn't have to feel that way. You don't need to run your business so that it's running you. And it's not a you problem. It's a structure problem. And now I hope that you know what structure could look like for your practice. So whether you are a solo provider, whether you manage and run multiple locations and a team of people, I'd love for you to take a next step. We should absolutely have a clarity coaching call like this. I'd love to learn more about your business. We can look at where you are and where you want to go, and what system, what approach is the right for you. The link will be in the chat, or in the follow-up message, to be able to schedule a complimentary clarity call with me. So you'll have that information. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this kind of power hour together and got some good information to help you with your business.
That was fantastic. And not just because I am a big fan of you and a big fan of this organization and this methodology, but you gave away so many real usable examples of how people can increase their efficiency, their productivity, and their practice. I took a ton of notes.
Oh,
We did have a
fantastic.
couple of questions that came in. Would it be okay? Do you have time for me to ask a few questions that came in?
Absolutely.
Okay, so one of actually, well, this one's from me. Okay, I'm just gonna put myself first because I think that you are so on target with the point you made about data, like tracking metrics, knowing what's happening, not once in a while, but consistently on a weekly basis. What would be something that you could recommend to a practitioner that isn't used to doing that? How can they get into the habit? Because you and I both know that if you get into the habit of doing that, you get addicted. Like you need that information. But how does
Right.
somebody start and ensure that they do that all the time?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is start small. Don't try to do everything at once. So start with one metric. I mean, is it number of new patients that, that get that make an appointment? What is it? Is it the number of new memberships that, that get sold? What is one thing maybe that you're working on that you want to see if it's working? Or maybe is it like, maybe you're doing something new with your marketing and you want to track like how many lead forms are being completed each week, right? Because that's going to lead to a phone call, hopefully. So just first of all, just start small. That's the first thing. The second thing is if you're not working, with a coach, and then you need to put some time in on your calendar and you need to stick with it. That's the hard part though. Like it's like building that muscle and doing it consistently. We drift, and I mean, I see it with myself and my own business. It's like every professional needs a coach to hold them accountable. But, put that accountability in place. So, put it into your calendar, put the notification. You can ignore it, but it's there. So,
Don't ignore
so
people.
put it in there. And then if you're trying to think about like what should you track, first of all, what's not working? Are you not achieving your revenue goals? Are you not, is your revenue not where it needs to be? So think about so if you think about your outcome first, and you had to work backwards, because again, revenue is a lagging indicator. It's a result. It's not a predictor that drives the result. So if you think about that lagging indicator, what are the steps that you take that help you to achieve revenue?
Yeah, and
Right?
I'm going to throw in just as a plug for the thing that I teach to my clients all the time is that if you don't have revenue goals, then revenue is a lagging indicator. But if you know that you should be at $10,000 a month and you should be bringing in four new patients a month in order to get to that goal, like then it becomes a predictor because then if you look at what you actually did and it doesn't match, it's less than what your goal is, then you know you've got something to work on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so there's like you said, creating the outcome first and then working backwards. That's definitely the key. Somebody did write in though a question about the L10 meetings. So L10 meeting is a very foreign name. And so I'm just going to say that, in our world, the medical world, you may just call it a staff meeting, but it's the same thing. They want to know who do you invite? Like you kind of said, well, pick and choose the right people, but then you've got like notifications about people being out sick. So should it be everybody? Should you do something with more of a leadership team? What do you recommend?
Yeah, I always say start with the leadership team. When
Okay.
I work with my clients, we start with leadership team first. If you don't have a leadership team, which is the whole reason why I created the Get Focused program, because EOS implementation, full implementation is for businesses that have, anywhere from like 15 to 300 employees, right?
Mhm.
So and when you're beyond 15 people, you typically have a few leaders, maybe one or
Right.
two, that own some like major areas or core functions of the business. But for businesses who are smaller in team size, 10 or less, they often don't have a leadership team, but they still need this structure, which is why the Get Focused program is so valuable because it gives you sort of like a cohort, a team, and that accountability to just start doing the meetings, start working on your business, start looking at these things, you're setting goals. And that was sort of one of the reasons why that program was designed and built and who it's for. But start with just you if you don't really have a full team. But I would also say start with you first, get comfortable, and then you can maybe invite some people to join. What you don't want to do is like try something new. You invite everyone and you're like, why were
It
we
falls
here?
flat.
So
Yeah.
yeah, again, another benefit of something like Get Focused is it really teaches you these skills. You start to master them and you have a minimum of 6 months that you're just doing that program and you start to really get the flow so you can really start to implement it in your business or you can keep going.
So I'm going to give you an objection because I really want to hear the answer. So if
Okay.
anyone is sitting there thinking to themselves, when am I big enough to invest in a coach? When is
Hmm.
it time for me to invest? I would love to have you answer that question.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it's never too late to invest. And I would say, like, you want the beauty of investing before is that you can sort of overcome issues before you experience them, if that makes sense. So, that's sort of like your pie in the sky kind of like it's never too late to invest. If like it will absolutely give you return in and then some. That I can say really confidently. What I will say is I've had businesses as small as 300,000 in revenue join my Get Focused program, um, and usually it's the 300 to 2 million stage is who's starting to feel more confident and competent around doing it. So that's kind of like the typical revenue size, if you
Okay.
will. Yeah.
Yeah, so and I'll add to that to say that, I don't think it's ever too early to invest in
Yeah.
building your business. Um, it's a lot harder to go back and fix all the mistakes, all the chaos and the crud, then it's cheaper to invest in a coach, invest in a mastermind earlier on in your business so that everything is set up properly from day one and you get to experience all the efficiency and all the growth and all of the joy of having a well operating system in your business, right?
It is, and actually the percentages of businesses who fail because they're not able to break through those ceilings, they're not able, they don't have systems and disciplines to be able to do it, like that number is high.
Yeah.
So the percentage of businesses who fail are a lot higher than the percentage of businesses who really succeed and get to that next level and thrive. So, I also say like it's like less than 1% typically, less than 2% of of your overall revenue is sort of like you should be investing, right? Like if like it's so minimal when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. You're like, how could I not do this? Why would I not do this?
Well, and I like to think about it in terms of number of patients. So the clinics that we work with, hormone clinics, typically a patient is worth to a practice anywhere from $1,500 to $3,500 a year. And most
Mm,
hormone clinics have patient lifetime value at 3 to 5 years. So
mm.
if you're investing, let's say, $5,000 a month on a coach, that is two patients.
Yeah, I know.
If the coaching experience over a course of, let's say, 3 to 6 months does not help you get more than two extra patients a month, something's not right. So,
Absolutely.
and you won't know that unless you are tracking the metrics, unless you are paying attention to the details. So it all goes hand in hand. So we'll end
Absolutely.
tonight by saying if you're at all thinking about growing your business and you want some support in the EOS methodology, by all means, book that clarity call with Meryl. I'm gonna, like I said, I will have it in the email with the replay for everyone, a link to your website, a link to the clarity coaching call sign up. And we already chatted when we started about the possibility of us doing this again. So, we'll pick another topic that helps a business really scale and grow, and we'll come chat about it again.
Amazing. So much fun. Thank you everyone for being here this evening.